Andres de Doble A Sports here with another video covering Mexican football and the Mexico women's national team. After their winning result versus St. Lucia, the Mexico women's national football team played their first home game of the 2026 year versus Brazil in Estadio Ciudad de los Deportes in Ciudad de Mexico and won the game 1-0, 1-0. They won versus Brazil. Entering this game, it was expected that this would be a very difficult game for Mexico, especially considering that the last time Mexico played versus Brazil, Mexico lost 3-0 in the semifinals of the Women's Gold Cup. With that in mind, this game was seen as a test for La Selección Femenil to see where they stand in comparison to a strong World Cup contending team like Brazil that will be in the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup, and would show how much Mexico has improved and what they need to improve on going forward. Well, not only did Mexico learn a lot from this game, they won the game, they beat Brazil, and their resilient performance showed just how much they have improved over these last 2 years. True, it was shaky at times. Mexico had some shaky moments in this game. And the first half was definitely not ideal for Mexico. They also had moments where they should have conceded goals but got lucky as 2 shots by Brazil hit the posts and were recovered by Estefany Barreras. But after Pedro Lopez made the correct adjustments and player substitutions, Mexico settled into the game, and it was Mexico who looked like the better team in the second half, where they were able to score and win the game while maintaining a strong defense. Mexico showed resilience, and it was their resilience that led them to a winning result in this game. Final score, the Mexico women's national team won 1-0, 1-0 versus Brazil in their first home game of the year. And not only did this win show how much they have significantly improved over the last 2 years, but with this win, they also continue their unbeaten streak that has seen them win 11 of their last 13 games. With that, here are Mexico's performance grades for this big win. Goalkeeper, A+. As expected, Estefany Barreras was the starting goalkeeper for the game, and she was the best player on the field for Mexico throughout the full 90 minutes. She made 6 saves in the game, maintaining a clean sheet for Mexico, and was one of the biggest reasons why Mexico were able to win this game. If it were not for the saves Barreras made, Brazil probably would have scored 4 or 5 goals in this game. Estefany Barreras had an elite performance and once again showed that she is without a doubt the best goalkeeper on the team. In every big game like this that Mexico will have going forward, if Barreras is available and healthy to play, she needs to be called up and she should be starting in every single one of them. Defenders, B. Greta Espinosa, Yvonne Gutierrez, Alia Farmer, and Reina Reyes were the starting defenders in the game. Yvonne Gutierrez had a few good defensive plays, but also had moments where she looked shaky and was caught in transition, resulting in an overall performance where she struggled a bit and played like her age and experience level. Remember, she is young, and this was only the 4th game she has played for Mexico so far, so this was a big learning moment for her. As for Reina Reyes, she was the worst defender on the field and had a really bad game. She struggled to clear the ball out of danger and was constantly getting beat on speed and pace. She was slow and really struggled to keep up with the fast pace of play in this game. This is why Brazil kept trying to create offensively from the left side of the field where Reyes was, as they tried to exploit the defense's weakness with Reyes struggling on the field. This resulted in Reyes being one of the first substitutions Pedro Lopez made in the second half, and rightfully so. Honestly, she should have been substituted out at halftime. Fortunately for Mexico and the defense, Alia Farmer while she still had a couple mistakes of her own during the game, still had a very good performance and was able to hold her own and carry the burden of having to defend not just the center of the field with Yvonne Gutierrez, but also the left side of the field amid Reina Reyes being completely out of her element on the field. Honestly, if it weren't for Farmer's solid performance as one of the starting defenders, Brazil probably would have made this game look ugly for Mexico. Nicolette Hernandez and Kimberly Rodriguez entered the game in the second half as substitutes for Farmer and Reyes. And from there, the defense immediately improved. Nikki Hernandez locked down the left side of the field for Mexico, and Brazil began creating fewer and fewer opportunities from that side of the field. And Rodriguez was also very good in the center back position. Hernandez should have started in this game instead of Reyes. And lastly, Greta Espinosa. She was the starting right back and one of the next best defensive players on the field in this game, along with the goalkeeper Estefany Barreras. She looked a little shaky in the first 20 minutes, just like Gutierrez and Reyes. But once she got settled into the game, she played well. And once Hernandez and Rodriguez were substituted on, she played even better and contributed offensively in the biggest way. In the 76th minute, off a corner kick, Espinosa, with a great header, scored the goal for Mexico, and it would end up being the winning goal for Mexico in this game. This is Espinosa's 5th goal for Mexico, and one that contributed to an incredible win for Mexico. Well done. Midfielders, B-. Alexia Delgado, Rebecca Bernal, and Ali Soto were the 3 starting midfielders for Mexico. As a trio, they struggled to pass and maintain possession of the ball and got outplayed by Brazil's midfield. Each of the 3 had a couple individual moments of brilliance. For example, Delgado had a couple of moments in the second half where she made a couple of excellent moves and dribbles in ground duels against Brazil to hold on to possession of the ball. Ali Soto had 3 moments where she also made incredible moves to keep possession of the ball. And Rebecca Bernal was good in falling back and helping the center backs as the defensive midfielder. The problem for these 3 in this game was they looked unorganized and were unable to pass or maintain possession of the ball in the midfield. This resulted in the midfielders being turnover machines with the ball, and Mexico having only 38% of the ball possession in this game. To be fair and honest, Brazil's midfield is very good and has a lot of experience, and Mexico had a very young midfielder playing in her first big test game against a team of this level in Alice Soto. And I do think this is why Alice Soto in particular looked a little more out of her element in this game than normal. Like Yvonne Gutierrez in the defense, I think Alice Soto played like her age, where the gap in experience was really visible and she got outplayed by the Brazilian midfielders who have more experience, while this first big game against an elite opponent is a stepping stone, a learning moment for Alice Soto in her development. So when considering this, while the starting midfielders did not play well, I am also not going to just give harsh criticism for 100% of the time. They struggled, but they will learn and build up from this. And that was the point of playing this game versus Brazil, to know where they stand right now against these higher level teams and learn what they need to improve on going forward. And lastly, Carla Nieto, the midfielder who entered the game as a substitute. She was without a doubt the best midfielder in the game for Mexico, despite entering the game in the second half as a substitute. She had a much better performance and was able to pass and maintain possession of the ball more. She made an instant positive impact once she entered the game that played a key part in the game's momentum shifting in favor of Mexico. And given how she played and her form overall with the team, I was surprised that she wasn't in the starting 11. Now, before I move on to the next grade categories, I just want to address the criticism the midfielders are receiving after their shaky performance, and specifically The criticism toward Ali Soto. During the broadcast of the game on YouTube, there were comments from people watching the game saying, Ali Soto es como jugar con 10, and Soto no es para, para la selección. Saying things like Ali Soto, playing with Ali Soto on the field is like playing with only 10 players. And, Soto is not built for the national team. Just really harsh comments towards her and her performance. And it again shows how the Mexican fan base can turn so quickly against its own players and team. And sometimes this becomes very toxic because such criticism to such extent is not always justified. And in this case, I wanted to talk about this because I do think this harsh criticism towards Ali Soto was very toxic from these fans because they are saying such harsh things without nuance and considering the totality of the factors. There were multiple things that were true in regards to Ali Soto's shaky performance in this game. Was this a bad game in comparison to her to the other 13 or 14 games she has played for Mexico so far? Yes. Did she play like her age? Yes. And that is exactly why fans should not instantly be this harsh on her and her performance. Ali Soto is a talented player. However, we have to also remember that she is still only 19 years old and developing at the national team level. So while it would have been incredible to see her score or get an assist in this game, and even get the opportunity to play alongside Saldivar and play well, at the same time, given her age and that most of the players in this game have played in twice or 3 times the number of games compared to Soto's 15 games with Mexico, we should also not be too critical if the most realistic thing happens, which it did. The experience, the gap in experience showed. I am not saying we shouldn't criticize. I believe we should give credit when it's deserved and criticize when it's deserved. However, we should not be too harsh or toxic when criticizing. With that, while Ali Soto did not have her best performance, she is a young player. This still doesn't change the fact that she is the best prospect the Mexico women's national team has right now. And yes, she is more than good enough to be part of this team and starting in games for Mexico. This is something that she will learn from, and it will only elevate her skill level going forward. Moving on to the performance grade for the offensive front, B-. Scarlett Camberos was the starting winger, and Lisbeth Ovalle, who normally plays as an attacking midfielder, and Kiana Palacios, they were the 2 starting strikers in the 4-4-2 formation for Mexico. As a unit, they did not have a good game, and outside of 3 or 4 moments where Ovalle did a good job maintaining possession of the ball, and Camberos created a couple of small chances off of counterattacks, they were non-existent offensively. Granted, a significant part of this wasn't really their fault, given that the midfield was getting outplayed and Reina Reyes was really struggling defensively. However, being aware of the fact that they were struggling to pass and maintain possession in the midfield, which had Mexico playing defense for a majority of this game, their mistake was not falling back more to help out in the midfield. And I would have liked to have seen them do that, especially Kiana Palacios, who was arguably the worst of the 3 starters in the offensive front and the most non-existent. Chalin Corral and Montserrat Saldivar entered the game as substitutes. And just like when Carla Nieto and Nikki Hernandez entered the game as substitutes, Corral and Saldivar both made an instant positive impact on the field. Corral provided the assist with the corner kick on the goal scored by Espinosa, and Saldivar created a couple of counterattacks as Brazil's defense began to struggle in the final 10 minutes of the game. These 2 players changed the momentum of the game for Mexico instantly, where Mexico began to play much more offensively with them on the field. Head coach, B. This game was very stressful for Mexico, forcing them to fall back and defend most of the time. And while the poor performances of some of the players was one reason why, head coach Pedro Lopez is also at fault for this, as he made bad decisions when it came to the starting lineup. Surprisingly, he didn't start Kenty Robles or Nicky Hernandez in the fullback positions, a decision that he seemed to regret, as the first substitution he made was to take out Reina Reyes, who did not play well. Why he didn't start either one or both of his two best strikers in Chalin Corral and Diana Ordóñez was also a questionable decision that did not make sense. And for some reason, he is either hesitant or reluctant to start Saldivar and Soto together, despite the great teammate chemistry they have as an offensive duo. And given the team looked better offensively with Saldivar as a winger on the left side in those final 10 minutes, I am very disappointed that we didn't get to see Saldivar and Soto play together in this game, as maybe that would have made a positive impact that could have helped the midfield. The starting lineup he created, as I grab my notes to show you guys, the starting lineup he created for this game was this. It was a 4-4-2 with Barreras, Reyes, Farmer, Gutierrez, Espinosa, then Soto, Bernal, Delgado, Camberos, Ovalle, and Palacios up front. This was a very questionable lineup when it's clear the starting lineup should have been this, with Hernandez and Robles, Carla Nieto as the defensive midfielder, Saldivar and Ovalle as the wingers, and Ordóñez and Corral as the two strikers in this 4-4-2 formation. This starting 11 probably would have played better than the lineup Pedro Lopez started in this game. Lopez, for some reason, decided to experiment and didn't start all of his best players, and it nearly backfired in the first half. Fortunately, he realized this, and in the second half immediately made adjustments and substitutions. And all of his substitutions worked out perfectly and resulted in Mexico playing better in the second half than in the first half, where they barely survived without conceding a goal. While he lost points for his questionable starting lineup, Pedro Lopez did make all the correct changes, and his leadership kept the team in the game. His team was resilient and found a way to win. With that, I'm giving Pedro Lopez a B grade as the head coach. Going forward, look for him to start his best players and not change or experiment with what isn't broken, after nearly regretting doing so in the first half of this game. And now, two special grade categories, one for the Mexican Football Federation and one for the fans who attended the game. Starting off with the grade for the Federation, I am giving the Mexican Football Federation an A grade. Give the Federation credit for organizing this game, as it was not only an opportunity to play a game at home in the first international games of the 2026 year, but it was a game against an elite opponent that elevated the team's skill level and will only help them in the long term. And while there might be some criticism about the Federation's management, specifically regarding the men's team, and that criticism might be justified, you have to give them credit when it comes to Mexican women's football, as so far they have done everything right, and it's showing with how much La Selección Femenil has improved. And my final grade category, the Mexican fans in attendance in Estadio Ciudad de los Deportes, A+. According to the commentators on the YouTube broadcast and news outlets that reported the crowd attendance, over 24,000 Mexico fans attended the game in Estadio Ciudad de los Deportes. That is higher than the average attendance for some Liga MX teams right now. Last year in October, they played against New Zealand in this same stadium, and only 10,000 fans attended the game. It is great to see more and more fans start attending the women's national team's games in big numbers like this, and it shows that both the massive improvement in the team's form, while playing games all across Mexico, from Tlaxcala to Ciudad Juárez, from Estadio Curruco Diaz to Ciudad de Mexico. It has successfully grown women's football in Mexico and support for the women's national team. I hope we continue to see this positive growth starting in their next game in Zacatecas, where I hope fans there turn out and bring their passion for football to the stadium. There you have it, my performance grades for the Mexico women's national team for their big win against Brazil. And for an overall team grade, I am giving La Selección Femenil de Mexico an A grade for this game, even though I only gave an A grade for the goalkeepers, for the goalkeeper Estefany Barreras. While there were shaky moments and moments where Mexico were very lucky, the team showed resilience and never played with fear. And it was the incredible resilience that they showed on the field that led them to a historic winning result as Mexico won 1-0, 1-0 versus Brazil, beating them for the first time in 7 years. They also extend their unbeaten streak, now having gone 13 straight games without losing, winning in 11 of them. This win showed that this Mexico women's national team is different from the past. This team has improved greatly with so many bright prospects and is now capable of competing with and winning against the best. Andres de AA Sports. Guys, I'm telling you, if you are not already following the Mexico women's national team, leave a like and subscribe to stay informed and updated on all the news covering the Mexico women's national team, because this team is building up something special. And should they qualify for the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup, this team right here could be the dark horse of the tournament. 2 great winning results to start the year for the Mexico women's national team, and I am already excited to see what they will do next in April. That will be all for this video. The Mexico women's national team's next game will be on April 10th against the U.S. Virgin Islands in their first World Cup qualifying game. That will be played at home in Mexico. So I'm excited to see what this team will accomplish next. Until then, leave a like and subscribe to support the channel and stay informed on all the latest news covering Mexican football and the Mexico women's national team. Thanks for watching and listening. Viva Mexico!